The Hip-Hop Declaration of Peace. This document recognizes hip-hop as an international culture of peace and prosperity. It is also a set of principles which advise all hip-hoppers on how to sustain the peaceful character of hip-hop culture and to form worldwide peace. Additionally, this declaration is meant to show hip-hop as a positive phenomenon which has nothing in common with the negative image of hip-hop as something that corrupts young people and encourages them to break the law. If you claim to be or to live hip-hop, this the Hip-Hop Declaration of Peace along with KRS-One's Gospel of Hip-Hop you could consider your Bible. If you want to preserve and progress hip-hop in a healthy manner, you'll probably find yourself in agreement with many of the principles and the knowledge it holds. If you do so, welcome to the club. Go sign the declaration and keep spreading this fundamental document of insights with fellow hip-hoppers. The Hip-Hop Declaration of Peace is composed mainly by Bombay Taz Universal Zulu Nation and KRS Temple of Hip-Hop and was formally introduced to the UN on May 16, 2001. I for one will always strive, personally and professionally, to honor the Hip-Hop Declaration of Peace. Promise. Here is a large image of the original and below are the full 18 principles provided for your study. The Hip-Hop Declaration of Peace. This Hip-Hop Declaration of Peace guides hip-hop culture toward freedom from violence, and establishes advice and protection for the existence and development of the international hip-hop community. Through the principles of this Hip-Hop Declaration of Peace we, hip-hop culture, establish a foundation of health, love, awareness, wealth, peace, and prosperity for ourselves, our children and their children's children, forever. For the clarification of hip-hop's meaning and purpose, or when the intention of hip-hop is questioned, or when disputes between parties arise concerning hip-hop, hip-hoppers shall have access to the advice of this document, the Hip-Hop Declaration of Peace, as guidance, advice, and protection. First principle. Hip-hop. Hip-hop is a term that describes our independent collective consciousness. Ever-growing, it is commonly expressed through such elements as breakin', MCing, graffiti art, DJing, beatboxing, street fashion, street language, street knowledge and street entrepreneurialism. Wherever and whenever these and future elements and expressions of hip-hop culture manifest, this Hip-Hop Declaration of Peace shall advise the use and interpretation of such elements, expressions, and lifestyle. Second principle. Hip-hop culture respects the dignity and sanctity of life without discrimination or prejudice. Hip-hoppers shall thoroughly consider the protection and the development of life, over and before the individual decision to destroy or seek to alter its natural development. Third principle. Hip-hop culture respects the laws and agreements of its culture, its country, its institutions, and whomever it does business with. Hip-hop does not irresponsibly break laws and commitments. Fourth principle. Hip-hop is a term that describes our independent collective consciousness. As a conscious way of life, we acknowledge our influence on society, especially on children, and we shall forever keep the rights and welfare of both in mind. Hip-hop culture encourages womanhood, manhood, sisterhood, brotherhood, childhood, and family. We are conscious not to bring any intentional disrespect that jeopardizes the dignity and reputation of our children, elders, and ancestors. Fifth principle. The ability to define, defend, and educate ourselves is encouraged, developed, preserved, protected and promoted as a means toward peace and prosperity, and toward the protection and the development of our self-worth. Through knowledge of purpose and the development of our natural and learned skills, hip-hoppers are encouraged to always present their best work and ideas. Sixth principle. Hip-hop culture honors no relationship, person, event, act, or otherwise wherein the preservation and further development of hip-hop's culture, principles and elements are not considered or respected. Hip-hop culture does not participate in activities that clearly destroy or alter its ability to productively and peacefully exist. Hip-hoppers are encouraged to initiate and participate in fair trade and honesty in all negotiations and transactions. Seventh principle. The essence of hip-hop is beyond entertainment. The elements of hip-hop culture may be traded for money, honor, power, respect, food, shelter, information and other resources. However, hip-hop and its culture cannot be bought, nor is it for sale. It cannot be transferred or exchanged by or to anyone for any compensation at any time or at any place. Hip-hop is the priceless principle of our self-empowerment. Hip-hop is not a product. Eighth principle. Companies, corporations, non- and not-for-profit organizations, as well as individuals and groups that are clearly benefiting from the use, interpretation, and/or exploitation of the term hip-hop, i.e. hip-hop, hip-hop, and the expressions and terminologies of hip-hop, i.e. hip-hop, hip-hop are encouraged to commission and/or employ a full-time or part-time certified hip-hop cultural specialist to interpret and answer sensitive cultural questions regarding the principles and proper presentations of hip-hop's elements and culture, relative to businesses, individuals, organizations, communities, cities, as well as other countries. Ninth principle. May 3rd is Rap Music Day. Hip-hoppers are encouraged to dedicate their time and talent to self-development and for service to their communities. Every third week in May is Hip Hop Appreciation Week HHAW. During this time, hip-hoppers are encouraged to honor their ancestors, reflect upon their cultural contributions and appreciate the elements and principles of hip-hop culture. November is Hip Hop History Month. During this time hip-hoppers are encouraged to participate in the creating, learning, and honoring of hip-hop's history and historical cultural contributors. 10th principle. Hip-hoppers are encouraged to build meaningful and lasting relationships that rest upon love, trust, equality, and respect. Hip-hoppers are encouraged not to cheat, abuse, or deceive their friends. 11th principle. The hip-hop community exists as an international culture of consciousness that provides all races, tribes, religions, and styles of people a foundation for the communication of their best ideas and works. Hip-hop culture is united as one multi-skilled, multicultural, multi-faith, multiracial people committed to the establishment and the development of peace. 12th principle. Hip-hop culture does not intentionally or voluntarily participate in any form of hate, deceit, prejudice, or theft at any time. At no time shall hip-hop culture engage in any violent war within itself. Those who intentionally violate the principles of this declaration of peace or intentionally reject its advice, forfeit by their own actions the protections set forth herein. 13th principle. Hip-hop culture rejects the immature impulse for unwarranted acts of violence and always seeks diplomatic, non-violent strategies in the settlement of all disputes. Hip-hoppers are encouraged to consider forgiveness and understanding before any act of retaliation. War is reserved as a final solution when there is evidence that all other means of diplomatic negotiation have failed repeatedly. 14th principle. Hip-hoppers are encouraged to eliminate poverty, speak out against injustice and shape a more caring society and a more peaceful world. Hip-hop culture supports a dialogue and action that heals divisions in society, addresses the legitimate concerns of humankind and advances the cause of peace. 15th principle. Hip-hoppers respect and learn from the ways of nature, regardless of where we are on this planet. Hip-hop culture holds sacred our duty to contribute to our own survival as independent, free-thinking beings in and throughout the universe. This planet, commonly known as Earth, is our nurturing parent, and hip-hoppers are encouraged to respect nature and all creations and inhabitants of nature. 16th principle. Hip-hop's pioneers, legends, teachers, elders, and ancestors shall not be inaccurately quoted, misrepresented, or disrespected at any time. No one should profess to be a hip-hop pioneer or legend unless they can prove with facts and/or witnesses their credibility and contributions to hip-hop culture. 17th principle. Hip-hoppers are encouraged to share resources. Hip-hoppers should give as freely and as often as possible. It is the duty of every hip-hopper to assist, whenever possible, in the relief of human suffering and in the correction of injustice. Hip-hop is shown the highest respect when hip-hoppers respect each other. Hip-hop culture is preserved, nurtured, and developed when hip-hoppers preserve, nurture and develop one another. 18th principle. Hip-hop culture maintains a healthy, caring and wealthy, central hip-hop guild fully aware and invested with the power to promote, teach, interpret, modify, and defend the principles of this hip-hop declaration of peace.